Hey, it's Michael Douglas. Welcome back to another edition of Dr. Pundit, where we talk about music, not medicine. And before we go any further, we're getting very close, or close enough, to 500 subscribers on this channel. And to those who have subscribed, thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. I'm glad what I put out here means a lot, enough to enough people to hit that subscribe button. And I'm just humbled. I like putting out this content. I like listening to music, thinking about music, pontificating about music, criticizing music, all of that. And all of that energy I bring into this channel each and every time I produce a video. So thank you very much. And if you haven't subscribed, I think there's some statistic that says that the majority of channels with subscribers, less than, I don't know, 10, 15% come from people, in terms of views, who actually watch the channel. Every new video that's put out, the vast majority of views are from potential subscribers, non-subscribers. So if you've been thinking about it, you've been looking at a lot of these videos on this channel, and you like what you see, please don't hesitate to like and subscribe. And I'll repeat it one more time, as I usually do at the end of my videos. So the topic on this video, a lot of people realize how much I favor some artists, certain artists on this channel. Billy Joel is one of those artists, and we've been chronicling a few of those episodes surrounding Billy Joel within the past year. Of course, his fall at a concert, his recent diagnosis of a neurologic disorder called normal pressure hydrocephalus, from which he is doing well, of course. And also the lead up to his current HBO Max documentary, And So It Goes. The first part of the new two-part Billy Joel documentary on that streaming platform is called Billy Joel, And So It Goes. And it premiered last Friday, about 10 days ago almost, the 18th. And this in-depth film features new interviews with Billy Joel discussing his life and career and songs, of course. Quite the watch. Great episode. A segment of the documentary revealed that Billy Joel once had the opportunity to work with one of the most respected producers in the business, longtime Beatles collaborator George Martin. Now, perhaps, surprisingly, the piano man chose not to work with Martin, whom he had asked to produce what became his breakthrough album, The Stranger, released 48 years ago in 1977. Billy Joel discussed this on the latest episode of Bill Maher's podcast, which, whatever you think of Bill Maher, put that aside and watch this episode. Because I do watch some of those podcasts, but the non-political people he has on there. And this is a perfect example. Again, I'm a big Billy Joel fan, so I thought it was worth my time. But the subject of this video comes from this particular installment of Maher's podcast. And he told Bill Maher, that was one of the most traumatic things I went through. I was deciding not to work with George Martin, who was one of my heroes. I thought he was an integral part of the Beatles, and I loved the Beatles more than anybody, and he was the fifth Beatle. After watching Joel perform live, George Martin told him he wanted to produce him. The ultimate compliment, of course. The issue is that he wanted to use his own musicians in the studio, rather than the band Billy had been touring with and recording with since the mid-1970s. Explaining his thought process to Bill Maher about how to turn George Martin down, which, in hindsight, I'm sure was very difficult for Billy Joel. Billy Joel noted, wait, you're not going to have George Martin produce you? Your big problem is production. You need a good producer. I know, but he wants to not use my band, and that's part of my sound, I thought. In the documentary, Billy Joel explains that when George Martin told him he'd only produce him if they don't use Billy's backing group, the piano man said, love me, love my band, and told him no.
But you know what? I got to tell you, you people in the business, you just have a different view. I'm just a young man in the 22nd row. I see you as something more than sexual, more than just our Marilyn Monroe. And to us, like a lot of the things you guys do and talk about and think are important, like George Martin, I saw in the documentary, wanted to produce you, which is a great compliment and makes perfect sense of all the people who he thinks he could follow the Beatles with. Okay, but then he wanted to fire your band. And I don't know what George Martin was hearing from your band, but I promise you, the regular guy did not notice that. Did not think that band, oh boy, Billy Joel's records. Oh, if only he'd fire that band and hire a good one. It's ridiculous.
That was one of the most traumatic things I went through was deciding not to work with George Martin, who was one of my heroes. I thought he was an integral part of the Beatles, and I loved the Beatles more than anybody.
Completely.
And he was the fifth Beatle.
Right.
And wait, you're not going to have George Martin produce you? Your big problem is production. You need a good producer. I know, but he wants to not use my band, and that's part of my sound, I thought.
But also, what are you talking about production? There's so much production. Like on Billy the Kid.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. I mean,
Aaron Copland.
I mean, so many of your songs, I'm telling you, it's an opus. It's not just a record. That's production from early on.
Joel's band at the time included Liberty DeVito, saxophonist Richie Cannata, guitarist Howie Emerson, and bassist Doug Stegmeyer. Billy inevitably hired, famously, Phil Ramone to produce the album The Stranger, and at the same time, Ramone was a staff producer at Joel's label, Columbia Records. The Stranger wound up spending 6 weeks at number 2 on the Billboard 200, and it became Joel's best-selling studio album ever, achieving 12 times platinum status. That's 12 million copies in the United States. And in 1979, The Stranger produced the single Just the Way You Are, which won for both Record and Song of the Year for its performance in 1978. Phil Ramone went on to produce all of Billy Joel's albums from that point on to the 1986 album The Bridge, which I think is a highly underrated Billy Joel album. And one of these days, I swear, I'll get to reviewing it. Now, as I stated, part 1 of And So It Goes, Billy Joel on HBO Max, covers Joel's life through the release of his 1980 album Glass Houses and the breakup of his marriage to his first wife and longtime manager, Elizabeth Weber. So if you have access to it, I'm not sure where else it's being streamed. I think that's the exclusive at this point, HBO Max, but I kind of watch it so you don't have to if you're into Billy Joel. I'm Michael Douglas. If you like what you see here on the channel, please don't hesitate to like and subscribe. And as the late great Barry White always used to say, let the music play. And I'll see you on the next episode.